Hey, what's up, everybody? This is C3 Films, and we are at an open discussion. My name is Chris, and this is.
Cheryl.
And today we're going to be talking about a Netflix movie called I Care a Lot. So we're going to go into spoiler territory here. If you haven't seen the movie, go and watch it, and then come back and check out our video. So without further ado, let's go ahead and just jump right into it. So tell me, Cheryl, like you recommended this movie, and you actually saw it twice. Once before you recommended it for me to watch, and then the second time after we decided to do it for this show. What made you want to talk about it for the show specifically?
I just after I watched it, I really wanted to talk about it. So only natural for me to want to call you up and be like, "Okay, we need to do this because I need to talk about it." And I guess the reason why I wanted to talk about it was because of how excited I was to for like a lot of reasons actually. But I think mostly excited about this movie because there was really no hero. Everyone in this movie was like a bad guy, and you don't get that often. And I think that's what really excited me the most. Also, because I love Peter Dinklage, and I love how the main characters are women, and I guess in a sense, like it's not your typical white male character. Like they're the people in the movie are different, and that made me enjoy the movie even more. Um, and also the ending was very satisfying.
Yeah, I figured the reason that you wanted me to see it was because of the fact that it's a story about all villains. I mean, the movie basically starts off by telling you there are no good people in the world, and then she goes into this whole like speech about like predator and prey and all that jazz. And so the lead actress of this film is Rosamund Pike, who most people will probably recognize from the movie Gone Girl with Ben Affleck. And what I thought was interesting in this movie was how she essentially kind of plays a similar character as the one from that movie. Um, and maybe it's just one of those things where she's getting typecasted as this kind of um, smart and like aggressive, you know, female lead. But I remember seeing her first couple of scenes and being like, "Is this a sequel to Gone Girl?" Because you feel like almost the same person. But yeah, she's a really talented actress, and I love Peter Dinklage too. So I like seeing Peter Dinklage in this movie, and I like seeing him even more as a villain because Peter Dinklage is usually posed as the good guy and the guy that's gonna be on your side or whatever else like that. But except for like in maybe X-Men, and even then like he was bad, but he wasn't like that bad. This he's a gangster, and it's like he's ready to kill you. And I loved every time he was on screen. I loved it.
Yeah, I just like in a sense it wasn't enjoyable because you're not really rooting for anyone and you're not getting satisfaction because your main character is the villain, and in a sense she succeeds almost the entire time of this movie, and so you're just like really annoyed and like pissed off the whole time that she's winning. And like Peter Dinklage is also a villain, but you're kind of rooting for him. Not, but you're not rooting for him. You're rooting for her to lose, and
Yes.
and so it's just a little like ugh. But then you're so satisfied at the end because you really get your just desserts, and it's not like it's it's from like almost like a surprise because the book end is so neat. It's so tidy. It's like the you go in with her voiceover and meeting this guy that she like screws over, and then it ends with him getting his revenge. He's actually the hero of the movie because he takes care of the villain, and then it ends with her voiceover. By the way, this is the perfect example of a movie that properly uses voiceovers. Just saying, because I have a really big thing about it. It's a huge pet peeve when like voiceovers are misused, and this is definitely a movie where it's not the greatest voiceover story, but at least they use it properly.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. And I'm glad you brought up the frustration with the movie because I legitimately, when I was watching the film, was thinking to myself, I'm gonna be that guy that just tells Cheryl I hated this movie. I'm gonna just go. I'm gonna just be like, why did you make me watch this? I am just spending the entire movie angry because like I am on the side of Peter Dinklage because of the fact that you mess with this with his mom. Like you're already messing with people in general, and yeah, and all these people are somebody's parent. But now we have an actual like connection to one of the people that you messed up that also just seems like fine, and so you're messing with someone's mom. And so like when she makes this speech to the mother where she says, your people broke the rules because they tried to kill one of my friends, I rolled my eyes and nearly flipped the table. I was like, shut up, because you are messing with somebody's parent. You are messing with someone's mom and you're talking about rules. Get the heck off my screen. I cannot wait for you to die. And so more frustration comes in because she keeps getting one over on people. She keeps succeeding. And so I can't help but feel like a tightening in my chest and just feel a rage um, throughout the entirety of the movie. And the only time that let up was when they decided that they were going to work together. Like I found myself not being as angry with that ending, and I was like, okay, this is probably the best I'm gonna get is the fact that they're gonna work together and it ends and she's still on top. And I was resigned to that. I resigned myself to just be like, this is my ending. And then the last 30 seconds of that movie happened, and I nearly fell on the floor laughing. I was like, yes, there is justice in this movie where it feels like there was no justice.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. So now I can tell you I love the movie.
Right, exactly. I think that's why I found the movie so interesting, is because like I too thought that I was gonna hate this movie. It was like, oh, I don't like how it's making me feel. But then at the end, I'm like, you know what? This is a good movie because it made you feel something. It really like boils that emotion inside of you, and then it turns it around completely at the very end, and like you get so much satisfaction, and it's like it's hard to get that from a movie. And there's a lot of things about this movie that like make it really good, even though it's not terribly outstandish or unique. It just has
Mhm.
a lot of striking things in it, and that being it being different with not having a hero. No, well, it has a hero, but not like a main character hero, and
Yeah.
it just does something a little bit more unique. However slight it is, where they change that up a little bit, and I guess like I don't know, I can't I can't put my finger on everything.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
I do appreciate all the unique qualities for it, and that it really makes you feel stuff, cuz that's hard to do.
No, absolutely. And yeah, I think that the movie in general is a very simple type of movie. And yeah, I don't think that it's any type of groundbreaking film. I wouldn't go out of the way and say anything like that. But what I would say is that a movie is successful if it achieves what it's if what it sets out to do. What is the intention? The intention that I gather from this movie is intended to give you a film that doesn't have any true hero and makes you really want to root against the main character of the film, but constantly gives you things that hurt you because there's no comeuppance, there's no catharsis in throughout the entire movie. You keep seeing this person that you want to see fail. You see them succeed, and the reason I think that the movie can be more successful for me is because of the fact that it almost feels like the movie spends the entirety of its runtime beating you down, saying that there is no justice, there is no justice. People like this get away with it. This is the way the world works, and it's this nihilistic approach to what our society is, and that doesn't feel good. And so at some point, like my journey, you eventually just accept that this is the movie that you're watching, and you accept that the ending that you get is just going to be an ending that you're not going to be happy with, and such is life. There is no happy ending or whatnot. And then within the reason I'm impressed is because within the span of like literally 30 seconds, the movie completely flips all of that. And the reason that it's so effective is because it just spent like the almost 2 hour runtime beating you down just so that it could make 30 seconds, take 30 seconds to give you the catharsis you've been waiting for this entire movie, and then it's over. And so you're left with that feeling that you wanted, and that's the last thing you remember, which is why you can leave the movie happy.
Mm-hmm. And there's just like, I couldn't agree more about how they spend so much time just beating you down with like corruption, and not just any corruption, but it's like the government. It's the people that you're supposed to
Yes.
trust and
Trust.
believe in, and not everyone is bad, but they're being manipulated into doing what the villains want for, capitalism, making money. People are greedy, and all this stuff. But in the end, even though she had all this success and she has all this money, what was it for? Because she ends up losing it all from the little guy that we completely forgot about. Like, you
Not
didn't even
about.
think he mattered at the beginning until, like, you see him at the end and you're like, wait a minute, he looks familiar. And you're like, oh snap, he's from the very beginning. And then he's gonna pull out the gun, and then he has the gun, and you're like, whoa. And then it's not even just that she dies, but it's also Fran, who loses everything too, because Marla is her everything, and now she has
Mhm.
to live the rest of her life without her, without Marla. So she
Right.
also gets her punishment. I guess the only person who doesn't really get punishment is Peter Dinklage, but that's okay because
I'm okay with that.
we kind of like him, and he wasn't the villain of the story, even though
And
he is a villain.
to be fair, the whole thing about a movie is kind of based off of what the director, what he chooses, what they choose to show you. And we didn't see Peter Dinklage do anything evil to people who didn't deserve it. As far as we see, the only people that Peter Dinklage go after are the people that went after his mother. And so in our minds, he's justified. So we're not associating him with the villain, even though he's talking about how he broke all the fingers off one woman that said something that he didn't like. He's clearly a bad person, but because we don't see him doing acts of harm to people that in our minds don't deserve it, we can imprint onto him and use like see him as the way that we can get our own vengeance on this type of person, because this could be our mom, and we feel like we'd want to hurt this person too. So like I absolutely agree with you with all of that, and I really enjoyed the fact that the movie played with that, especially because my opinion of the movie was that it was going to be a movie about don't mess with people you don't know. So when she like goes after the mom, but then the mom is associated with somebody that's in the Russian mob, it's like, yeah, you mess with the wrong person. And so that gets me excited. But then apparently she's just so good that it didn't matter. But then no, that theme was still true because she messed with the wrong person at the beginning of the movie, and that ended up being her undoing by the end of the film. So it's
Mm-hmm.
it's great.
Yeah, I mean, the only evil thing I think he really did in the movie was take one bite out of a donut and then throw it on the ground. That was
Rude.
it was it was such a beautiful donut, and it looked so good.
He was having a bad day.
But anyway, I couldn't, like, I felt like I was on like a roller coaster of emotion with him, because on the one hand, like, you already know that Marla is a terrible person, and then you have, this whole, I feel like it almost like the Titans fighting each other because of Peter Dinklage and his mom, and they're all like, oh, like, just you wait, he's coming, and like, and I felt like, oh snap, there's gonna be like, oh, she's gonna get it now, but then like then they kind of like take that away from you. And I honestly thought that that Peter Dinklage was going to team up with Marla when he first meets her,
Mm,
because I thought that he would find her impressive and then make her an offer and partnership at that point in the
good
movie,
point.
and then get his mom back and then like take us on a whole nother journey in the movie. That's what I thought. I think that would have also worked for me in a way where they start a partnership earlier, and have trouble
Yeah.
along the way, but it still worked out kind of. Although I did feel like she was in the water too long when he tried to
Yeah,
kill her.
she was in the water way too long to survive. But like even with that scene, when we got to that scene, I looked at the runtime. It was 40 minutes left of the movie. I immediately am like, okay, she's not dying right now, unless the movie like switches like perspective to Fran and now she's the main character. Like we, she's not gonna die here.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing about these characters is that none of them have any remorse. Like Marla and Fran show no remorse for what they've done. Even after they have people actively trying to murder them, they never utter the words, maybe we shouldn't have done this, or we never should have like taken advantage of these people. They are unapologetic. They do not care. And when given the opportunity, they continue to do exactly what they've been doing the entire time.
That's what money does. It's the greed and the desire for money, and I guess you could say that is kind of an honest depiction of how some people really are, where they really
Mm,
don't care about other people as long as they get what they want. And I think,
right.
when that moment when that lawyer Dean goes to meet Marla and he offers to give her $300,000, I was like, she should just take that money and then keep the diamonds because no one really knows about the diamonds. But I guess, they figure out about it later. But
Right.
that would have been cool with me. I'd take that. But I'd fight. I'd take that as a win. But she wanted more, and the more she got, like, she got so much more. But then it was all in vain, really. So
Yeah, no, she got a little too greedy, and maybe that's the ultimate thing is that yeah, she if she had just taken that money and run, she would have had her life. Um, but one of the other things I wanted to mention as well that we didn't get to touch on yet was twofold.
wait, hang
One,
on before you change this subject. I just wanted to point out, that she says that she's not afraid of death because you know and Dean says everybody dies at some point.
yeah,
And like, and it's true, like, once you die, then it's like, well, okay, then none of that really
right,
mattered, right?
yeah, like the way she makes that argument when she's about to die is like, do you remember what happened in 1887? Yeah, me neither. Like
Mm-hmm.
it'll just be that again. It's like,
So she makes it
okay.
seem like she doesn't really care if she dies, but then I guess she kind of does, because what's the point of living? I guess it kind of takes away from the point of living, and
Yeah.
it should also take away the point of money.
It's the question of what is the point of living and doing all the things that you're doing if you don't live long enough to actually be able to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
They say in that news segment, you're only 39. That you have nothing but like the rest of like your life ahead of you. And the irony is that she doesn't. So, you spend all that time amassing this wealth and cheating these people, and you've succeeded at 39 years old, and you think to yourself, man, I have at least another like 40 years of life ahead of me to enjoy the things that I did, but you don't. You die right after you achieved your goal, which is also a kind of I like a kind of brutal irony, which is kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, but like one of the things I wanted to talk about was the music in this movie and how I felt that it really worked well with what was happening. Like the score comes across almost kind of like like a slasher 70s flick in some cases, a lot of synth noises and things like that, loud sounds. But I found in those scenes when when the score was just carrying the scenes and there was no dialogue, I really enjoyed the music throughout the movie.
So I didn't even notice the music.
Oh.
That's how you know they did a good job.
Mhm.
It was seamless, I guess, because I didn't really nothing really stuck out to me
Yeah,
um, in that sense. So I guess it didn't bother me or it didn't excite me either. Neutral.
neutral on the music. Well, yeah, and then the other thing was that I felt that like they had high talent in this movie. Basically every scene, even when what was it? Even that scene with Dean and Marla, um, all of those scenes were well acted. They were always interesting to sit down and listen to, even though it's just two people talking and giving threats to each other or veiled threats to one another. It's always interesting. Even when I see Marla and the older woman when they're talking, and I thought this was funny how like Marla shows her hypocrisy. She says to Dean, or she says to Fran, that Dean resorted to threats because he had nothing else. But then the first thing she does in the exact next scene, when the old woman doesn't give her the information she wants, she threatens her. So she's just as prone to doing it as Dean was. And I thought that was pretty interesting because it's the literal next scene after she said that line of dialogue. But all those scenes are very well acted to me, and they I just thought they were really good.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the I was actually gonna say that too. That all of the acting in this movie is so good that I'm just kind of blown away a little bit about how good the acting is because usually you don't watch a movie and go, "Oh, I really love the acting." It usually like,
Right.
okay, like I enjoyed the movie, but in this case like I just really thought that the actors were really strong and that could be also because of how the script is written, the dialogue is written, where you really feel the the battle in the dialogue where and in the acting where
Yes.
like they're all basically fighting for power and control just by having a conversation and that is really fun to me to just see because you don't get that a lot in other movies where usually they have dialogue to carry the film along so that they can have the next thing happen. But I think a lot of
Mhm.
the scenes where people are having conversations with each other, it's to show the strength of that character, so they're more like character scenes than
Mhm.
story scenes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that that's probably why the movie ends up being as effective as it is because of the fact that those character scenes are what are going to carry you throughout the entire movie. They're what's going to make you either hate somebody like Rosamund Pike's character Marlowe, or absolutely like maybe not love Peter Dinklage's character, but at least root for his success because you want to see her fail. So yeah, but that's everything from me. Is there anything else you wanted to kind of touch on that we didn't get to talk about yet?
um I I did feel like I wanted Fran to die. I don't know how you. But then you know
Okay.
me.
I felt bad about writing it, but I wrote that in my notes um that it's ridiculous that Fran survived. One, I thought that he was going to try to make her listen to Fran as she died when they were in two separate places. And then two, the fact that she was able to even though there were simultaneous actions of like the whole being gassed in the house and being like captured, tied up, conversation, put into a car, like drugged, put into a car, and sit up, and then sent into the river, or to the lake. Like she basically did all of that, then got out, walked to a gas station, got new clothes, got into a Uber, drove all the way back to her place, and gets there before the gas kills Fran. Like that bothered me. So yes, that I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad you brought that up. That I literally wrote that too. That was something
Yeah,
that
that's how.
very
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. I mean, I guess in a sense, I no, I think it would have worked because if Fran died, it still would have motivated Marla to continue, pressing on and making things worse.
mhm.
But I guess the point of Fran living until the end is so that you could show Marla having everything and then losing everything.
Yeah, and see, I initially I thought that I wanted for Fran to die to hurt Marla, but the reason I forgot about it and like didn't bring it up was that the ending that they chose I almost felt was maybe more successful for me because since Fran lived, she got to be there to see Marla die instead. And Marla's really the one I wanted to die. I didn't necessarily want Fran to die. I wanted Marla to die. So I get my wish of having Marla die, but Fran's still a terrible person. But guess what? Now Fran gets to suffer by holding the woman that she loves in her arms as she
Mm-hmm.
bleeds out and dies on the pavement. And it's really bad because it says a lot about us as a society. But like the I I felt very vindicated in my vengeance in that moment.
Justice. I literally felt the phrase just desserts
Right?
because I was like, sweet.
Exactly. And I don't know if the filmmaker's trying to say something about the people that revel in the destruction of another human being, but I mean, all I care about is what they did, and what they did was awful. And because they did awful things, I want to see them pay.
I think the only other thing that kind of bothered me was that, for Peter Dinklage being like a huge drug dealer and everything, he doesn't have a lot of guys around. Like, I felt like it was too easy for Marla to single handedly take them down. And not that like I think how she took down the guys were like that was fine. I think what made it not convincing was there not being more obstacles and there literally only being like one guy and then one guy and then they weren't even two guys together. They were two individual guys that she took down separately. So it's like if I
Also, apparently, she's better at getting rid of somebody or killing them than the professional hitmen are.
exactly. Like he needs better guys and more of them. They suck
Because
at killing.
right? Because it'd be one thing if you killed one, but the other one didn't die. Then it's like, okay, well, that's a 50% ratio, but they were 0 for 2. They literally killed neither one of them.
Well, they got the
They both,
doctor.
oh, that's true. They have a 33% win rate.
So two
Okay.
for three.
So that was the thing that just felt, yeah, you're right. That one also felt a little weird because they are professionals and yet they literally don't kill either of those two women. But then this woman gets to Peter Dinklage, and basically, if she wanted to, he'd be dead and gone.
Mhm.
They never find him.
Yeah.
So that one did make me kind of roll my eyes, like, oh, of course they're not as good, and like she's good, and she's able to capture him easily without any effort, basically. But
Mhm. Yeah.
whatever.
I mean, in
I
all
got my
the
end.
other drug movies, they have like a lot of guys with guns and
Right.
and Peter Dinklage just has like one bodyguard and one driver.
Yeah, which is interesting considering that he went through all the trouble of changing his mom's name because he was worried that people would come after his mom,
Mhm.
which shows that he should probably. He even has a lawyer on retainer that no one else knows about, and like a safety deposit box for a key to another safety deposit box. You would think that he might have more than two guys.
Mhm. Yep.
Also, you would think that when you get into a car, I don't care how like little you are, if you're tall enough to see over the windshield, then you would think that when you were moving across the seat that you would see the knocked out body on the ground right next to the car.
Mhm.
Like that one also got me. I was like, the guy's literally right there. I don't care. Anytime I get into a car, I immediately see the ground around me, even when I'm not trying.
Yeah. I for sure was not convinced. I was like, this is too easy. This is not. Yeah. And what a wig she had.
Oh, what a
A
wig.
convenient wig that fit perfectly.
Maybe she bought it. Maybe she went and bought it. They took some
That's
time
true.
off screen to buy it. I got it from the hair and makeup department. Like I was next scene.
They went to a professional wig store.
Right, right. So, but yeah, was there anything else that kind of struck you? That was two really good points.
Nope, that was it for me.
All right. So, what about you guys? Did you guys see I Care a Lot? What did you think about it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Were you vindicated by the end, or did you kind of wish there was like kind of a different ending? Whatever you thought, comment below. Let us know. And while you're down there, if you give us a like, share, and subscribe. Even if you don't, though, I've been Chris, and this has been.
Cheryl, and we will see you all next time.